We start with C.J. Stroud because he's got the Bucks and he comes in as QB 11 for Barry this week. How do you see
sounds
Stroud?
like a disease. He's got the Bucks. Like it's almost like he's got scabies. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like something bad.
That kind of vibes with the Bucks overall kind of vibe this year of kind of being a little
touch me, you got the Bucks.
Yeah,
you got the Bucks. Exactly.
I don't want the Bucks.
You should quarantine. You got the Bucks.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, and a very special guest, the man that drinks free today, our contest winner, Amit. Hello, Amit. Welcome to the show.
How's it going, guys?
So, I'm going to just address you on camera because it's awkward if I just look around and then everyone at home gets to see my bald spot. So, Amit, where do you live? What do you do? How many fantasy leagues do you play in?
I play in 4 leagues.
Okay.
But the one that matters, I'm first. So
there you go. That's all that matters. That counts.
Yeah.
Because I'm in a bunch of leagues, but I'm in leagues with these guys, but they don't count. It doesn't matter, right? With the little people. You have leagues with other little people like I do.
Right.
They're just like, whatever.
Right.
If you win, you do, But yeah, there's a couple leagues where you care.
Yeah.
I get that. I appreciate that. I understand. So, and what do you do for a living and where are you from?
So I'm a geriatrician. I take care of old people in the ICU.
Uh-huh.
And I live near Buffalo, New York.
Okay,
So
fair
from
enough.
Western New York.
So
Go
you
Bills. Go Bills.
Go Bills, sure. You take care of old people. It explains why you're a fan of me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you might be staying for more than just this show.
Exactly. Do you this is super awkward, but during the commercial break, can you check my prostate?
Because I don't do that. I don't get paid to do that. That's a urology problem.
Damn it. I got it. All right, Connor, it's going to have to be you again.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be
Just
you
when I
again.
thought I was off the hook, finally.
I'm sorry. It is what it is. A lot of people, why doesn't Connor like this job? Well, now you know. Who would check my prostate is Todd Zeal. Just so you understand. If you understand why.
Todd's
I'll
never
talk you through
escaping
it.
this.
I'm just so you know. Hey, so question for you, Amit. Did you just happen upon the contest? Are you a regular watcher of the show? Or are you a fan? Talk to me.
Everyday watcher. I saw the contest pop up, entered my name, and a month later, somebody from your show reached out, and here I am.
Yeah, that was Jay.
Jay ran the whole
Jay
thing.
reached out. We have to earn our money on him somehow. What I would say is it you told me before the show it's on every day in the ICU?
Yeah.
The show?
When I'm doing my rounds, in the afternoon, it's on.
So last question for you. Does this show make your elderly patients in the ICU better or worse? You can be honest.
Most of them were actually sedated, so
That's the best way to watch.
Yeah, that's our audience. That's our audience. That makes sense.
There we go.
We're a hit in the ICU.
There we go.
And let that be a lesson to everyone watching at home. The best way to enjoy us is sedation. Absolutely. You can write scripts for everyone, right? And we'll send them out to everyone?
yeah, that's fine.
We got you. All right, well, listen, hey, congratulations on winning the contest, being here in beautiful Stamford, Connecticut. We appreciate you watching the show. We appreciate you forcing every one of your patients, heavily sedated, to suffer through the show. And I'm glad that we've led you to first place in the league you care about. So that's most important.
Anyone ever wake up and ask if this is hell when they sing a song?
Hasn't happened
You don't have to
yet.
answer that. Okay. Just making sure.
You mean like you do every day?
No, I didn't say. Just a question.
That's right.
Just a question. Let's jump into the Rotoworld player
Yeah, it's
news,
Love-Hate
of course.
Day.
It is
Let's go.
Love-Hate Day. We got a lot to do. Notable injuries we are tracking as we head into not only Thursday Night Football, we'll get there in a second, but the entire weekend. And for all your Rotoworld player news, go to NBCSports.com. How about Deshaun Watson? He was limited, still dealing with that shoulder injury. I don't think that's going away at any point this season, guys. It'll just be a question of if he can play through that. Raheem Mostert didn't practice, but it sounds like he'll be good to go. Josh Allen also didn't practice. Same for Gus Edwards, Tyler Lockett, Emari Demercado. Darren Waller's sounds the most serious out of all of these. Waller expected to miss some time. He personally did not sound confident going forward. Drake London, Dameon Pierce, Matthew Stafford also did not practice. I mean, Jay, this is a laundry list of injuries. A lot of them could be more rest because it was a Wednesday, but some of them are concerning.
A lot of big names on this one. I think Josh Allen will frighten some people, I think, because he did have the shoulder. He was in the medical tent against the Bucs. It seems like he'll be okay. He was implying that he would be fine, but that's just one to monitor. To me, the two big ones are the quarterbacks at the top and bottom of the list. Deshaun Watson, just don't know what's happening there. He's limited in practice, but no guarantee he will play. And then Matthew Stafford, who looks like he's going to avoid IR, so it's not the most serious outcome, but we don't know if he's going to play this week.
And obviously that affects Puka Nacua and my little Cooper Kupp. To me, the ones that sort of stand out to me, obviously Darren Waller. Reports are that he may be out weeks, not just this week, but weeks, which just, another blow to what's already been a just tough season for the Giants. Drake London with a groin. Again, finally we're like, hey, he's got Taylor Heineke. He's got a quarterback who can throw, and now he's not going to be out there. So that potentially he may not be out. So that's one that's a little bit concerning to me, as is Dameon Pierce. I mean, you don't really want a piece of the Houston Texans running back room, but given that, Gibbs is out, McCaffrey's out, ETN is out, Javonte Williams is out, you may not have a choice but to start Dameon Pierce this week if he can go. So we'll watch all those as well.
And then with that, we jump into tonight's game, Thursday Night Football, the Steelers and the Titans. Kenny Pickett has been dealing with the ribs injury. You already heard him on our show this week talking to the media. We played that clip. He's playing. He will be active. The same could be said for Derrick Henry with the ankle. He will be active. DeAndre Hopkins still questionable going into the game with a toe injury. And then Ryan Tannehill obviously is officially out because of his ankle injury. Jay, it will be the Will Levis show on Thursday Night Football, something we'll get into at the end of today's show as well.
Yep, it will be. And on a short week against the Steelers. Now, Steelers defense isn't as imposing as it has been in years past. Minka Fitzpatrick hurt as well. So
they do get Cam Hayward back tonight, though.
They do get Cam Hayward back.
So that's going to help.
Yeah, I think it might be trouble for Will Levis tonight, but we'll see. We'll get into it later.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into love-hate then, because obviously a ton to go through here, especially at the running back position.
Do you think, real quickly, Amit, do you think your patients, as heavily sedated as they are when they're watching this, are they going to notice you in the back there? Or are they so drugged up that they won't be able to determine TV Amit versus Dr. Amit?
I'm usually pretty liberal with drugs, so they're not gonna they don't even notice when I'm at bedside.
Come back next week.
I am getting your cell, and you are not leaving this step anytime soon.
New member of the show.
Yeah. New member of the show.
Do you ever meet people like Amit and they tell you that they're an ICU doctor, doing good for the world, and then when you introduce yourself, it's like, or when I introduce myself, it's like, yeah, I talk on television about Deshaun Watson's got a shoulder injury and the ramifications for fake football. Best bets off of that. How to take advantage of PJ Walker not being very good. Here's what I do.
Yeah, 100%. No, I have that situation almost every day of my life where you meet somebody and you're like, oh, I'm a doctor. This is somebody who's helping families and lives, right? And people come to the ICU and they're in bad shape, and so Amit's like their last hope, right? Or you meet teachers, people that are molding the future of our country. You meet firefighters and policemen, people that put their lives on the line every single day. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I wear makeup and talk about fake football on the internet.
Listen, I think Emari Demercado would really be a thing. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm breaking down, how many targets we think George Pickens is getting tonight. Right. Exactly.
And on rare occasion, it could be as Luigi.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
It's a good question. Doctor, you're a learned man. You've obviously gone to many fine universities. You have many leather-bound books that smell like mahogany. I'm sure to be a doctor of your stature. Where are you on the Luigi voice? Are you pro or con?
I think you might need a little bit more practice.
That's a great call.
That's a good call. It's me. I'm a doctor. It's me, a Luigi. I got a pasta overdose.
Just keeps breaking into string
it's
of
awful.
Yeah,
it's awful.
We always end up there somehow.
People, I will say, I want to shout out to some of my longtime fans. Recognize that it's really the Pedro Alvarez voice. From my old, I swear to God, it was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life, which is that when I used to do a baseball podcast, for whatever reason, I decided that was what Pedro Alvarez, who's a Latin player, sounds like. And it would be hey, it's me, Pedro Alvarez. And so anyway, just
antagonize multiple different communities.
Yes.
Latin community, the Italian community.
People understand. What's great is that people understand that I'm a man of very limited talent, and so I really only have the one voice. And so it's just
it's gonna have to work for a lot of different scenarios.
1,000%. But it was just the dumbest. It made no sense at all as to why that was Pedro Alvarez's voice, but that's what it was, and people loved it. And so a strikeout-prone third baseman for the Pirates. It was low those many years.
With that, we kick off the running back love list somehow with Saquon Barkley against the Raiders who are an absolute disaster right now, the Giants who are expected to have Daniel Jones back, so they'll actually be able to take dropbacks and throw the ball. Saquon Barkley, Barry, comes in as RB what for you?
RB2. I am as the number 2 running back in fan. You heard me.
Well, look at you.
What are they going to do? Let Daniel Jones throw it? Stop it. I'm sorry. Did you not just see the Raiders on Monday Night Football give up 1 billion yards to Jahmyr Gibbs? Look, Saquon Barkley is averaging over 30 touches per game since he returned, including a 20% target share. Oh, by the way, they no longer have Darren Waller. Like, how are they going to move the ball in this game? It's through Saquon Barkley. So I think that he's going to just get a massive workload. And running backs that have gotten at least 18 touches against the Raiders this year, averaging over 20 fantasy points per game this year. Again, they're giving up 152 scrimmage yards per game to opposing running backs. The Raiders are. We just saw them get decimated. You know, I don't know what kind of miracles Antonio Pierce can work in 4 days, but I think the fact of the matter is that very talented player with a massive workload and a good matchup. You're damn right. Saquon Barkley is my number 2 running back this week.
Now, since he came back from his injury, which was a relatively serious high ankle sprain, Saquon Barkley has 81 carries in 3 games. And obviously that was a fake game of football against the Raiders. That wasn't real. As you mentioned, Connor, just set the game back years and years watching that. Disappointing from the Jets defense as well to give up 128 yards to Saquon Barkley, but he did look explosive, and he was their only option, and will continue in a way to be.
But think about that. Think about that against a Jets defense that I think we will all agree is better than the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders, by the way, the Raiders, as disastrous as the Raiders' offense is, their defense has been fine. Right. Max Crosby's having an awesome year, right? So I mean, like their defense isn't awful, but they're better. Other than Max Crosby, I think they're better in the secondary than they are in terms of rushing defense. And in a game in which the Giants had a guy that passed for negative yards. I mean, like, DeVito was no threat at all. We think that the Jets is a better defense than the Raiders. And the Giants had no passing threat at all, and Barkley was still able to get over 100 total yards against the Jets. So against the Raiders, and Daniel Jones, even though he may not be 100%, he's obviously a significant upgrade of what they have in DeVito. Like, you know. So, yeah, Barkley's number 2.
Okay.
You heard me.
Okay.
Sure. Another running back in Barry's top 5 going into the week, Jonathan Taylor, whose workload goes up, but more importantly, he's got the Panthers, who have been their defense has been a fantasy goldmine for running backs.
It has been. And Taylor, he looks explosive again. He looks like the guy that he was in 2021. I think it went a little bit under the radar that last year that Jonathan Taylor was dealing with an ankle issue basically the whole season. He looks to have his speed back. A little bit of a concern that he didn't get any work in the second half, as he may have been dealing with an injury. But the Colts aren't very good at the moment, and so games where they are favored like they are against Carolina by 2.5 points, those are just gold for Taylor in terms of game script.
All right.
Exactly. I know Carolina shut down the Texans last week, but again, I think that was much
Texans
more about
shut down themselves every week.
That's exactly
No
right.
run
The
scheme.
Texans can't run the ball. They're not the Colts. The Colts, whether it's the Browns, whether it's the Ravens, like the Colts have been able to run the ball against everyone. And so Taylor, by the way, and Zach Moss, I think, are both very viable this week. I have Taylor inside my top 5 against the Carolina Panthers.
We showed during the injury portion that Derrick Henry will be active tonight. He'd been dealing with an ankle injury, and Barry, I mean, not only is this Tennessee offense going to probably protect Will Levis a little bit with the run game, but you could also run against the Steelers front. And Cam Hayward's back. Yes. But is Cam Hayward going to play 100% of the snaps out of the gate? That's a lot to ask.
Exactly. And he's only one man, right? Yes. I mean, and let's be clear, Derrick Henry's like 2.5. He's like 2.5 men. I mean, he really is. Teams that are facing the Steelers this year are averaging 26 running back carries per game. That's second most in the NFL, and that's normal. And then you think about the Tennessee Titans, who obviously want to run Derrick Henry quite a bit on the road on a short week. Running backs that get at least 18 touches against the Steelers, averaging over 18 fantasy points per game. They've given up 100 rushing yards in 6 out of 7 games this year. Again, I don't know that Cam Hayward is going to be enough to slow down King Henry. I think, especially given the fact that this is a short week on the road against the Steelers, a much tougher defense, they're going to want to take pressure off Will Levis. He's going to get a massive workload. He's King Henry. I'm his running back 7 this week.
Just goes under the radar, King Henry. Just taken for granted quietly. He's 5th in the league in rushing yards, and that's with already having had a bye. He's been efficient on the ground, running it as well. And that's not a great offensive line, but Henry, just with the volume that he gets in his ability, he just breaks one every game.
I think it's just because the Titans have been bad this year. And we really haven't seen, and there haven't been any national games. It feels like usually for many years there were like, they would be on these Thursday night games.
Yeah, against Jacksonville.
Right, right. And then you'd see Derrick Henry rush for 80, have an 80-yard run, and everyone would be like, whoa. But I think just because they've been limited to like the fourth or fifth window on CBS a lot of times, whatever, he hasn't had a lot of these massive big plays that we've seen, and because the Titans have been bad, it feels like just people aren't aware to that point. Like I don't think anyone really, he's fifth in the NFL in rushing. I think most perception is that he's had a quote down year, and he's had some bad games. But as we enter week 9, he's freaking Derrick Henry still.
It's just a down year for running backs as well. Like the really exciting, explosive running backs have been like Devin Achane or Kyron Williams came out of nowhere, and now they've both been dealing with injuries. So Derrick Henry, he only has 526 rushing yards through 7 games, but that makes you the 5th best rusher in the NFL right now. So I think that's another thing too. It's just about context of the position.
A couple others receiving votes: Darrell Henderson, Kareem Hunt, Chuba Hubbard, and Zack Moss. Henderson and Moss both sneak into the top 20, while Barry, Hunt, and Hubbard just on the outside looking
We just
in.
talked about Moss. The fact that I think is as great as Jonathan Taylor is, since he returned, Zack Moss is averaging 18.3 fantasy points per game, as we talked about with Jonathan Taylor. Panthers allow 126 rushing yards per game. I think he's a top 20 play this week. Darrell Henderson's had 34 touches over his 2 games with the Rams, including 62% of the team's running back touches, with Matthew Stafford less than 100% or potentially missing this game. I expect him to lean on Henderson and the running game, especially against the Packers defense that allows the 6th most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. Chuba Hubbard is the guy in Carolina. Miles Sanders is not a thing. Colts very quietly allow the 5th most fantasy points to running backs. I'm at running back 23. And then finally, Kareem Hunt. It feels like a 3-headed committee in Cleveland, but feels like Hunt, at least is at the top of it. Past 3 weeks, he's scored in every game. He's averaging 15 fantasy points per game. And most importantly, he's getting 75% of the Browns' red zone touches over that stretch. It feels like, whether it's due to injury or experience or he's getting back into the system, Stefanski trusts Kareem Hunt when they get in close.
I think the thing with Kareem Hunt, too, is that a lot of our skepticism about him in the preseason wasn't so much about the opportunity he might have when he signed with the team. It was that he just wasn't good last year. He wasn't explosive, and now he looks better physically than he did last season. He's the 16th rated running back by PFF grade. He only just turned 28 as well. You think Kareem Hunt was like 31? No, he's 28, and he looks better than he has, and he's behind a good offensive line.
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
Yeah.
People, it's like you look at me and you think I'm 31, but it turns out I'm 28.
Yeah.
I look older than I am.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I get that a lot, me and Kareem Hunt. Yeah.
With that, we'll move over to the hate list. Aaron Jones against the Rams right now for Aaron Jones. Listen, it's been an injury-riddled season for a lot of the Packers skill group, including Jones. Barry has not been leaned on.
When did Aaron Jones come in the league?
About 5 years ago?
I want to say, I was going to say 2016, 2017, something like that. Jay, look that up real quick.
Well, it should be 17.
Yeah. Blake's not here. Penn State Blake is not here. He's like, I don't know.
He's had enough as well.
He was visiting
drafted
a
in the
line or
2017
like
draft.
that. What?
He was taken in the 2017 draft.
2017. So literally that's what, 6 years ago?
That's correct, Matthew.
Did that math in my head. I don't want to brag. Doctor, I'm showing off for you a little bit. I got to be honest with you. I did that math in my head. All right. So literally for 6 years of my career, I've been screaming, free Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Free Aaron Jones. I said this on my, I believe it was his rookie year, either his rookie year or his second year. It might have been his second year, where I said Mike McCarthy's refusal to use Aaron Jones was going to get him fired at the end of the year. And that ended up happening. He did end up getting fired. I don't know if it was because of that, but it just again, I'm a believer that no one gets less out of more talented players than Mike McCarthy. That's a rant for another day. I've been screaming free Aaron Jones for 6 years, and we see flashes of it. And when we free Aaron Jones, what happens? Great things happen. And I don't get it, but for whatever reason, this year, Matt LaFleur has given Aaron Jones less than 12 touches in every single game he's played. He's got a 43% snap rate. And I get it. When you've got Jordan Love and, Jaden Wicks, you got to get him out there. Jaden Reed and,
Dontavian Wicks.
Octavian Wicks. Sorry, I combined two guys there. I mean, I'm just like,
It's
I don't
fine, they're the
understand.
same
Like,
guy.
you
I was gonna
paid
say.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
whatever.
doesn't matter.
You paid this guy, and I get that he's not 100% healthy, but if he's out there, he should be, if he's healthy enough to play, he should be playing. The fact of the matter is they're not using. He hasn't scored double-digit fantasy points since week number 1. He's had under 12 touches, so not a big workload, not scoring a ton. The offense is a mess as a whole. And oh, by the way, it's a brutal matchup as the Rams allow the fewest receiving yards per game to opposing running backs. So it's going to have to be up the middle for Aaron Jones, where he's splitting work with A.J. Dillon. He's outside my top 20. even in a week with 4 teams on a bye, with a bunch of committees, with a bunch of running backs that are terrible, it's still like, it's just, and he's one of my favorite players in the NFL. This is not Aaron Jones knows I love him. I literally am the guy that started the free Aaron Jones hashtag, and I can't.
They're just the most nondescript meh team in the NFL right now. What do you think is wrong with the Packers offense? Do you think it's just all emanates from Jordan Love or Bakhtiari?
It's everything. When you watch them, they're playing young receivers that they don't trust them, number one. Like the route tree and everything, you look at the route combinations, people aren't in the right place. The offensive line's been banged up. You have a young quarterback that holds onto the ball and makes bad decisions. And you're not going to be able to run the football with all those things because you can't effectively throw the football. And Aaron Jones has been hurt as well, like Barry hinted at. So they can't lean on him, or they are refusing to lean on him. A.J. Dillon's not any good. Like, let's just get that out of the way. He's not effective at all.
Sorry, AJ.
That's how and a lot of their players haven't been effective. I mean, Christian Watson's been hurt, right? Romeo Dobbs has been up and down. Luke Musgrave has been hurt. It's just everything that could go wrong for the Packers offense this year has gone wrong.
Yeah, and they are 3.5-point favorites home to the Los Angeles Rams because it's likely not going to be Matthew Stafford. It may be.
Still a good defense.
But anyway, that line tells you that DraftKings doesn't think he's playing.
Correct.
That's what that line tells you. Is that so? That'll be dicey. It'll be interesting to see who's under center. We'll talk about that more as the week goes on.
Staying in the NFC North, another running back here in Alexander Mattison makes the hate list, does not crack the top 25. And Mattison, in large part this year, Jay, has just not been effective. Atlanta's defense up front, pretty good too. Even with Grady Jarrett hurt, this is still a front that should be able to contain Mattison with a young quarterback in Jaren Hall making his first start under center.
Yeah, it looked like it was trending towards Cam Akers in that San Francisco Monday night game where Cam Akers was the guy who got the work towards the end of the game. Mattison did get 16 carries against the Packers versus Akers 9, but Mattison was 16 for 31. And so it seems like either he gets limited work and he's decent with it, or he gets a lot of work and he does nothing much with it. Tough matchup, and you would expect that surely if any team is going to load the box this weekend, it will be the Falcons and make Jaren Hall beat them.
I mean, that's the point. We have no idea what this offense is going to look like without Kirk Cousins. It's certainly certainly is a strong word. It is likely it's not going to be as effective with Kirk Cousins. Again, Hall may be good. You know what I mean? He may surprise us. He may also be not so good. The fact of the matter is to your point, the Falcons' really good run defense, even without Grady Jarrett. I mean, they haven't allowed a running back rushing touchdown this entire year. Not one. Not one. They also allow the second fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. And Mattison, who is 51st among qualified running backs in fantasy points per touch. So, I mean, again, he is only a volume play because he's not very efficient with his touches. When he gets touches, he is 51st in fantasy points per touch. So basically what you're doing is you're hoping that he gets a massive workload here, and I just don't know that you can count on that because again, they may get Cam Akers. They may be a lot more 3-and-outs with an inexperienced quarterback, by the way, and they may be down. Like, again, I am of the belief that the Falcons' offense, especially if Drake London plays, along with Kyle Pitts, along with Bijan Robinson, like all the anti-Atlanta talk is not because they don't have talent. It's because of the coaching and the quarterback. And I'm a Taylor Heineke guy. I mean, again, there'll be some ugly turnovers, but like, he's going to push the ball down the field. It will be a more upbeat, more up-tempo offense with Heineke under center. And so there's a chance they're down in this game, and they're having to throw. So anyway, he's my running back 29.
Yep. Falcons are 5-point favorites in that game, to your point, Matthew. Yep.
Final running back on the hate list, Emari Demercado. He's got a tough Browns defense, and I think more concerning, Barry, is that he has not been the pass-catching threat in this offense that we had hoped him to be.
It's so weird, Jay. I don't know what to. Yeah, it's like first we think he's the pass catching guy, then Ingram gets a lot of work, and then he is, and then he's not. And so, the 2 of the past 3 games, Demercado has under a 3% target share. Under 3%. Keontae Ingram, it didn't show up in the box score, but Keontae Ingram ran twice as many routes, and he saw 4 of the 6 snaps that the Cardinals had inside an opponent's 10-yard line. By the way, they're playing the Browns. And you want to talk about we don't know what the Vikings will look like under Jaren Hall. Like, we don't know what Clayton Tune is going to be with the Cardinals. I mean, like, I feel much better about Hall with the Vikings offense than I do about Tune with the Cardinals offense against the Browns. I mean, that's the fact of the matter is that only twice this year have the Browns allowed a rushing touchdown to opposing running backs. So it doesn't feel likely that Demercado falls into the end zone here, and it's a tough matchup, and again, you're sort of nervous about this. He's my running back 26. And
I think with 4 teams on bye, a guy who got 20 carries last week, he's probably going to have to be started in most leagues. But
that's
even
why
if you
he's running
start
back
him,
26. He's a flex. But
even if you start him, you don't have to feel good about it.
Right.
And they're 8-point dogs to the Browns, so it's probably not going to be a good game script.
yeah,
All right.
probably not.
Before we get to break here, guys, want to thank Amit as well for joining us on set. He's going to stay with us in the studio, just in
He just doesn't
front.
get to stand there awkwardly behind us.
Yeah, he's gonna
He gets to stand awkwardly behind the cameras.
exactly. He's gonna duck out from the bar.
It's everyone's dream.
Yeah, so you got the drink for free.
Did they put you in a nice hotel last night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, today actually, I came in today.
Okay, you came in today. They're putting you in one night. So it might not be a good one. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll report back later.
yeah, we'll let everyone know
All
tomorrow.
right, listen, so you'll be back at the end of the show. You're going to go off stage now. You're going to write me some scripts for some drugs. And then we'll be back right after this with more Love Hate. That's how you go to break, Connor. That's
No,
how
it's not,
done.
because I still got to do an ad. Get your weekdays started with Bet the Edge. Join Jay and Drew Dinsick as they tackle the biggest games from every angle in the NFL, NBA, and more. So whether you're targeting spreads and totals, looking for value in futures markets, or circling player props, Jay and Drew have you covered with new episodes every weekday at 6 a.m. Eastern.
That's what we
now
have to
we're
do.
going to break, but we're back
For
Love
Jay's
Hate
stupid
Mass
other
Catcher.
podcast that he
Thank
cheats
you,
on me?
Amit.
Where's the S&Y promo? Can we do that next?
Phoenix. Time for one last Old West showdown under this high, bright desert sky. 4 drivers will enter, and you know the rest. The NASCAR Championship on NBC and Peacock.
The NASCAR Championship at Phoenix. One final showdown out west. 4 drivers enter, 1 leaves a NASCAR champion. This Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC and Peacock. Speaking of the fastest, friend of the show, Eights, crossed the finish line in an impressive milestone last week, becoming the fastest Cowboy to reach 300 receptions. Pretty good company for CeeDee Lamb, as you see on the board here. He does that in 56 games. Des Bryant got to 300 receptions in 61. Michael Irvin in 72. And it's not just CeeDee Lamb from the 88 club who's tearing it up on the turf. But how about these 88s that tear it up on the track? The most NASCAR Cup
I
Series
see what you
wins
did there.
in number.
I didn't know where that was going.
It was pretty
Why
good,
he's
right?
an Emmy nominated.
That's
Emmy
right. That's
nominated.
right. That's right. In the number 88
Would you
car,
prefer Emmy nominated or Emmy losing?
I think I'll take nominated.
Okay,
Yes.
Emmy nominated.
Yeah, we'll keep it there until
Emmy
maybe I
nominated
get the
Connor
job done.
Rogers. Listen, this NASCAR. This is a really impressive NASCAR race. This is intense. This is what's coming up next.
So as you see here, the 88 Club, Dale Jarrett, Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Bobby Allison, Buck Baker, Alex Bowen. I'm laughing so hard because
It's like Matthew butted in with nothing to say.
I-
Absolutely nothing
I'm
to
sitting-
add. Just wanted to say
But
that.
hang on, we're doing it to promote. We're doing it to promote the NASCAR race
Yes,
that's coming up this
the
weekend
big race.
on NBC.
Yeah, I
You know
did
what
the ad read,
Let me
the
tell you
video.
something. Look. I know you guys are just reading what's on your page
Thank you,
right there.
Steven.
But I'm just going to tell you right now. Let me teach you a few things that I know about racing.
Yeah.
I'm actually a NASCAR expert.
Okay.
Okay.
I disagree, but okay.
All right, no. Listen, hear me out.
Expert's
Here's a couple
loose
things.
term.
Rubbing is racing. Okay, there you go. If you ain't first, you last.
Yeah.
Right?
Keep
you know?
going.
Yeah.
Right. And when I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. There you go.
Race car
That's
expert.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Ahmed has lost it. Behind the scenes, he's
Yeah.
lost it.
He
after
might
that.
not stay for the full show.
He's going back to Buffalo.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Or you
Look,
can be sedated when the show's on.
America's all about speed.
Yes.
Hot, nasty, badass speed.
What does that even mean?
Yeah. It's a Ricky Bobby quote from
Talladega
Talladega
Nights.
Nights. Of course.
Right.
Come on, everyone.
Sorry,
He
sit
got
on
that.
back.
Yes.
Yeah.
He got that.
The
You know
reason
what? Todd Zeal shouldn't have won. You think Todd Zeal gets a Will Ferrell quote? He doesn't.
I don't know.
Todd Zeal's got a lot of
Todd's got a
Jay
good sense
Croucher
of
in him.
humor. He might.
Wouldn't have got it.
Listen, the reason I was laughing so hard was while I was
How
in
has he
makeup.
seen like every obscure movie in the
And-
world, but
and
you
you haven't
haven't
seen
seen
Talladega
Talladega Nights?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Are you not a Will Ferrell guy?
No, I didn't see Titanic until like 4 years ago. I'd never seen
That's
Titanic.
pretty shocking.
Oh, by the
You just
way,
kinda
for the
stumble
record,
into it
Titanic,
sometimes.
not a Will Ferrell movie.
I know,
and,
but
and
still,
very,
it's
very
the
different
same
than
thing.
Talladega
I know,
Nights.
but
Yeah,
it's the same
totally
not the same
what
ending.
happened I see?
Just tonally, it's a very different movie than
Oh, I thought it
Talladega
was like
Nights.
Titanic.
Crashes
Oh,
in
okay.
both, but technically,
other
but that's
than-
about it.
That's
I
about
thought they
it.
were both crash movies.
Yeah,
Okay.
they both do involve crashes. That's for sure. Are you not a Will Ferrell guy?
No, I like Will Ferrell a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I just haven't seen Talladega Nights for whatever
Well,
reason.
okay.
Just never happened. The moment
Yeah.
just never arose. I'm not against it. It'll happen at some point.
It's one of the best.
The reason before we
What's
do
your
love
favorite Will
hate,
Ferrell movie?
I mean, Anchorman is a very chalk
Anchorman,
pick, but it's
I
so
think
good.
Anchorman's up
It's
there.
It's
Old
so
School's up
good.
there.
Oh, actually, probably Old School.
They're both
I
up
could do
there.
this all day.
I
really,
know.
with all of the movies. The only one I could say definitively is not is Elf.
Oh, I love Elf.
Elf's good, but it's just
The
on
third
too
act-
much.
The third
It's
act, bro,
on
the,
too
the
much.
the third act falls apart.
Yes.
I will say that.
He's in so many movies.
Step Brothers.
So many great movies.
Step Brothers.
Zoolander for me, I think.
But that's not a Will Ferrell
I know,
movie.
but he's
like,
in
he
it.
just, he's a cameo
I know,
of
but
it.
it's a magnificent cameo.
It's a great cameo.
Yeah.
He's great in everything
I
he
feel
does.
like I'm taking crazy pills when I'm on this show all the time.
Oh, the other guys is, I mean, a sneaky classic. A diabolical movie, but sneaky classic.
Yeah, you guys don't care if we talk about football. Can we
Love-
just
love, hate Will Ferrell
let's go Will hate.
yeah.
Will Ferrell movies.
We could do this.
Okay, so hate Bewitched.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, anyways.
And all the ones where he's serious.
Yeah, so watch the
Yeah,
NASCAR
creepy.
championship at Phoenix.
Yeah,
Love
let's do that.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb, yeah, but that was supposed to be a great segue after the
Yeah.
'88 thing. But
Was it really?
That's
Was that
okay,
really
though.
supposed to be a great segue?
Yeah, it was the best we could do.
Just here's what you do. Watch when it's on NBC on Sunday, right?
It's also on Peacock.
And on Peacock. At what
Yes.
time?
3 p.m. Eastern.
3
time.
p.m. Eastern. Watch it. Root for it. Bet on it at DraftKings and use promo code Barry. If you're not into NASCAR, bet on it. There you
You'll
go. And
love
then
it.
you'll be suddenly into it. It's actually great. If you've never been to a race, it's actually awesome.
Yep.
I've been to a number of NASCAR races. It's actually great.
So we kick it off with CeeDee Lamb on the love list. He comes in as a top 5 wide receiver for you this week. Barry, CeeDee Lamb, obviously
Yeah.
that Dallas passing attack decimated the Rams last week.
He's as fast as a race car. We just saw it. I believe that's what all that was about. Look, my guy Aites has a 33% target share over the last 2 weeks. Finally, Dak Prescott realizing what we've known for a long time. He's the best guy on your team. Try to get it to him. And you like this matchup with the Eagles. Philadelphia's allowed the second most touchdowns to wide receivers, and they've allowed at least 17 fantasy points to a wide receiver in every game they've played. So if you tell me, hey, there's a wide receiver that's going to get at least 17 fantasy points in this game, I'm telling you it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. My guy Aites, he's wide receiver 5 for me this week, as you see it there on your screen. Give me a big game. 8.
I like it. You know, the best I've ever seen Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb both play football in the same game was against the Eagles last season towards the end of the day. Completely lit them up. They moved CeeDee around the formation. They put him in the slot. He's running deep routes from the slot, and the Eagles had no answer for him whatsoever. It seems like the Cowboys now have realized that they just cannot run the ball for whatever reason. They are throwing it more. Dak has been excellent the past 2 weeks. They'll have to throw against Philadelphia. Should be a big game for Aites.
Jay, how about Garrett Wilson on the love list this week? A Zach Wilson-led offense, but 2 things here. One, he's starting to pepper Garrett Wilson with targets, even in the rain against the Giants. And the Chargers' pass defense is a very vulnerable opponent, no matter who is at quarterback.
Yeah, look, I think with Zach Wilson, we're at the point now where it's from a real football perspective, it's just not happening. But he has shown at least that he can throw the ball to Garrett Wilson a little bit more than at the start of the season when it was a total disaster. I think they're going to be down in this game. They are underdogs at home to the Chargers. I just think to be able to keep up with Justin Herbert. Also, the Chargers have an excellent run defense out of nowhere. So I don't think the Jets will be able to run the ball, stack boxes. Garrett Wilson should get a lot of work.
40% target share in back-to-back games. It's a good matchup against the Chargers. Chargers not only will game script work in their way, but to your point, Chargers allow the most yards per game to opposing wide receivers. Wide receivers that have gotten at least 6 targets against the Bolts so far this year, averaging 18.7 fantasy points per game. We expect at least 6 targets for Garrett Wilson in this one. He comes in at wide receiver 10 for me, Connor. There you go.
That's pretty good.
You buy that?
I do buy that.
All right, there you go.
There's nobody else on the field that can catch the ball in their offense.
You're Mr.
So.
Jets.
Does it matter that Zach Wilson is going up against a bad pass defense? Because I feel like Zach Wilson's play is just entirely in his own head.
That's correct. It doesn't matter.
They play down to
but
bad
it certainly, but you prefer him going against a bad defense than a good one.
I guess. Yeah.
It matters that he'll have to throw.
Yeah.
As you
Yes,
said.
that
That's
matters.
what that's what matters, like he had to against Kansas City as well. So next up on the list here, T. Higgins. He's got the Bills. T. Higgins comes in as a top 20 wide receiver for you this week. Barry's averaging 8.5 targets in his 4 full games. I think that's a big key, is that health is on his side.
Yeah,
now.
that's a 23% target share, and to your point, he is finally healthy. So now he gets against Buffalo, a game that'll be on Sunday night after the race. Tune into Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock
have to change
for
the channel.
Bills and Bengals. Yeah, exactly. You're lazy. Now you don't have to get up and change the channel.
You don't have to change the Peacock.
Sit there on your couch. Right. Look, here's the thing. Since Tre'Davious White has gone down, the Bills allow the 5th highest catch rate to wide receivers. They've enlisted at least 1 touchdown to a wide receiver in 3 out of 4 games, 3 of the 4 games in that stretch. And so obviously, Jamar Chase is going to get his, but this is a game that has a very high over-under. We expect a lot of points to be scored on both sides of the ball. And so T. Higgins, who's getting a lot of work, Joe Burrow fully healthy, he's fully healthy, good matchup. Jamar Chase is a top 3 play this week, but T. Higgins inside my top 20. He makes the love list.
All right, moving over to Dalton Kincaid here, Jay. Kincaid over the last 2 weeks, over 16 points per game in the tight end landscape of fantasy. That's phenomenal. And the most important thing is he's a real part of this offense now. Dawson Knox is out, and it's all Kincaid at the tight end position for Buffalo.
Yep, a lot of 11 personnel from the Bills lately, and Kincaid just seems to have more space to operate with Dawson Knox not there. He had those 15 targets. He was really a focal point against the Bucs, and also this Bengals defense. Like, a lot of the focus is going to be how on the Bills defense isn't what it was. This Bengals defense hasn't been amazing. They're ranked 17th in the NFL in EPA per play, and quietly, yes, the Niners didn't score heavily against the Bengals, and Purdy threw those 2 picks, but outside of those 2 picks, like, Purdy moved the ball through the air against the Bengals. I don't think this is an amazing defense, so I think that the Bills will have success through the air, and Kincaid will benefit.
Specifically about the Bengals defense, Jay, Cincinnati is bottom 3 in terms of most receiving yards and touchdowns allowed to opposing tight ends. Tight ends who have seen at least 5 targets against the Bengals this year are averaging over 14 fantasy points per game. Talented guy. I'm a tight end 4 this week.
Wow.
Like that, yeah.
You had a tight end
Barkley
6
2,
last week.
Kincaid
Yeah,
4.
and that paid off. What?
Right.
Barkley 2, Kincaid 4.
Yeah.
Really kind of guys moving up the rankings.
They are indeed.
Okay.
They are indeed. Much like you, not having seen Talladega Nights, are moving down my rankings.
Yes.
You know how we, on Sunday, on the Fantasy Football pregame show, a viewer
You
asked me to
ranked your
rank
co-hosts?
everyone?
He ranked us.
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
flashback.
Somebody tweeted at me about
So
this.
is right. Connor's my favorite. Right?
He's the next
Heard I
one.
was left out
Dr.
on the
Ahmed
show.
is second. You're third.
Yeah.
Lawrence,
I gotta say,
Lawrence
Connor,
didn't get a mention.
when I sat in the host chair on Monday when you're out there losing Emmys, I guess it's a lot more jarring being that closer to Matthew. I like this kind of little distance.
You weren't even there on popcorn
It's
day.
a different show.
That's
it's a different
true.
show
It
from
is.
here.
That was good
Arms right.
advice. He should have listened to your advice.
I tried to
That
help
was-
you.
Yeah.
I was literally walking to the Emmys and tweeting that to you. And I could have got hit by a cab. Anything could have happened. But I needed to get that advice
Yes.
to you.
Exactly. Especially because you weren't winning. So it
No,
didn't matter
I had to make the use of
whether
the day
you showed
somehow.
up to the Emmys or not. It's not like you had to go up and accept it.
There was a reception beforehand. That didn't matter.
Okay,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, so my 12 to 1 hour, instead of sitting here, I just ate hors d'oeuvres and got to have drinks.
sounds
Was it stuff like, hey, where do you think you'll put it, Todd Zeal?
Why
And
is he
like,
Luigi?
right.
Oh, hey.
Hey, at the Emmys.
Top the zeal.
Hey, it's a me, Connor Rogers.
God.
How
How about
I'm
some
about
other-
to lose an Emmy.
How about some others receiving votes here? Diontae Johnson comes in as wide receiver 20. Amari Cooper right behind him at wide receiver 21. Nico Collins at wide receiver 24. Pop Douglas against the Commanders, wide receiver 36, with Kendrick Bourne out for the season. Jake Ferguson, tight end 6. Trey McBride. Yes, it's Clayton Tune under center, but Trey McBride, monster week last week since Zach Ertz
Well,
went
we've talked about it a lot. The Cardinals are second in the NFL in terms of tight end target share, so I think he should get a lot of work in this one, especially as Myles Garrett and everyone is bearing down on Clayton Tune. He's going to look to quickly get rid of the ball to Trey McBride. Jake Ferguson, look, start your tight ends against the Eagles. Philadelphia allowing the second most touchdowns to opposing tight ends. I want to point out Demario Douglas here. 22% target share over the past 2 weeks. Kendrick Bourne out for the season. Devontae Parker currently in concussion protocol. They play my Commanders, who have a bad defense to begin with, and then just traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young. So a bad defense got worse. I think that was the right move for the Commanders. Look to the future. I think it was unlikely that Sweat or Young were back. It's sad because the draft capital that was used on both those guys, it's just sort of, again, it's just another example of just mismanagement by the team for years and years and years. But I thought that was actually a really good move for the Commanders to get something. I can't believe the Bears gave up a 2 for Montez Sweat, which is likely going to be like a top 5 pick
like
in the second.
34,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So I love the move for the Commanders for the future. But what it means for us now is that a bad defense got worse, and Demario Douglas is somebody I know they're very high on in New England. So those guys there, we'll talk about Diontae Johnson more in the next segment there, but yeah, Amari Cooper, I don't care who's playing quarterback. He's going to get a massive target share against Arizona. And Nico Collins, very quietly, last 4 weeks, Buccaneers, averaging 209 yards per game to wide receivers. That is most in the NFL.
Moving over to the hate list here, led by
They also can't run the ball, so they're going to have to throw. Nico and Tank Dell.
Hate list led by Zay Flowers against Seattle. He'll have to see the combination of Tariq Woolen and, of course, Devin Witherspoon, Jay. And it's, for Zay Flowers, it's been kind of trending downward in recent weeks.
Just isn't happening. When I think of Zay Flowers on the football field, I think of Lamar Jackson throwing him a screen pass and then get tackled for a 3-yard gain. It just doesn't seem like they've been able to activate him in the ways they would have liked. Now he goes up against a really good, underrated defense in Seattle. So I think Zay Flowers is at the point. Just how much that team runs the ball with how Andrews looks and Odell as well as getting targets. I think we just have to see it more from Zay before we really believe in it.
To your point about watching them play, last 3 games, Flowers has an average depth of target of 6.4 yards. To your point about it's just like these bubble screens and that aren't really going anywhere as well. One wide receiver. Since week 4, one wide receiver scored over 15 fantasy points against the Seahawks. Again, I agree with you on that defense. He's wide receiver 30 for me this week. The guy he, in theory, replaced, Marquise Hollywood Brown, now on the Arizona Cardinals. He also makes the hate list, Connor, real quickly.
Yeah.
Rookie quarterback on the road against Cleveland's number 1 ranked defense. He's had 1 game this year with more than 61 yards. He was really not involved last week. He bailed you out with a last-second touchdown in comeback mode. But I don't know. Brown's allowed the lowest catch rate to wide receivers and the fewest fantasy points per game. Third fewest fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. Hollywood Brown outside my top 30 this week as well.
Christian Watson comes in as wide receiver 38 for Barry, Jay. And the fact is, since Christian Watson's been back, he's not even getting 10 points a game right now. He's outside the top 50 receivers in fantasy.
I don't think there's any player on the Packers I want to start. Like at any position, any wide receiver, tight end, running back, quarterback, no Packers wide receiver I want to start. Even when they're
honestly, not even their kicker's good.
Yeah.
He's missed a couple of kicks.
Yeah. Rashawn Gary, if you start defensive player, maybe
IDP.
him. But outside of that,
I
don't want any part of the Packers offense.
And finally, Josh Palmer here, Barry. He's got the Jets secondary. Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, they made their return against the Giants last week. Palmer comes in as wide receiver 43.
That's exactly right. So it's a tough matchup. No team in the NFL has allowed fewer fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers than your New York Fighting Jets, Connor. And here's the other thing. The Jets have yet to allow 45 receiving yards to multiple wide receivers in the same game this year. So if you sort of figure okay, Keenan Allen's probably getting to 45 yards this game. What are the odds that anyone else does? I think it's unlikely. Josh Palmer is my wide receiver 43, especially because Quentin Johnson's starting to get a little bit more involved in this offense too. Yeah, not somebody I want to use this week.
And finally, love-hate for the quarterbacks here. And we start with Joe Burrow on that massive Sunday night matchup against the Bills here. For Barry, Burrow comes in as a top 5 quarterback, QB3 here, Jay. And Burrow last week started to look like the Joe Burrow we all know and love.
Yeah, most encouraging play of the entire season for Joe Burrow. He checked into a quarterback draw play. And when he checked into it, the left tackle was like, what do you mean? Because they hadn't done that all season because Joe Burrow hasn't been able to run. Now he can run. He looked very explosive. It seems like he's just all the way back. He's the guy who was drafted as the top 5 quarterback before the season.
Yeah, it's also, as we've talked about, it's the second highest implied team total this week. We expect a lot of scoring on both sides of the ball. Buffalo Bills have allowed 19 fantasy points to each of the last 2 quarterbacks they faced. Those quarterbacks' names, Baker Mayfield and Mac Jones. And now he's got a fully healthy Joe Burrow with a fully healthy T. Higgins and, of course, Jamar Chase as well. Last 3 weeks, he's averaging 21.6 fantasy points per game. Joe Burrow is my QB3 this week. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's an investor in FantasyLife.com, but just out of, honesty with the audience, I just want to let everyone know that he does, in fact, invest.
It's a corporate thing.
I don't want people to think that I'm doing this because he's an investor in my free FantasyLife.com website.
Yeah, like Jamar Chase.
Correct. Jamar Chase is as well. Yeah. But again, I like him based on the merits of his play in the matchup.
Not on the love list, Jamar Chase. See him there.
Austin Eckler,
I do have him as a top 3.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah,
Very
Eckler's. No, I don't have Eckler on the love list either.
No,
but I do love him.
Maybe they should invest more.
I love him being on the cap table.
Next up, Tua Tagovailoa against the Chiefs in Germany. Tua comes in as QB6, and Barry, the total on this slate is at 51. That is the highest for the weekend right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. look, I think the Chiefs, we talked about this game yesterday, I think the Chiefs come out and I think they beat the Dolphins in this game, and I think they right a lot of the wrongs that they had last week, right? They're motivated. Well, Tua's going to have to throw to keep up with them. Like in games in which the Dolphins score more than 20 points, and that's what we expect them to do here, he's averaging over 21 fantasy points per game. Chiefs allow touchdown passes at the 6th highest rate in the NFL since week 4. So again, like Tyreek Hill, revenge game, all of this. I think it's going to be a very exciting game, and I just think they're not going to be able to just, run the ball and play slow down against the Chiefs.
All right, moving over
I
to...
don't see the Chiefs having 2 bad games in a row offensively.
Probably not.
The final one, Jay, Dak Prescott, who's coming off a great week against the Rams. Yes, he has the Eagles, but he comes in as QB7 because right now the Philadelphia secondary, as we've talked about this week, you could throw against them, and Dallas needs to face the facts they can't run the ball right now.
Yep, so you can't run the ball on the Eagles, but you can throw on them. And with Dallas, they can't run the ball, but they can throw it. So it just seems like a perfect recipe for Dak Prescott, who, by the way, past 2 weeks, or his past 2 performances at least, Dak's been the best quarterback in the NFL over that span. He's been an absolute monster against the Chargers and against the Rams, and I think that he'll be able to light up the Eagles in a shootout.
I don't know that he's been the best quarterback in the NFL, but I'll say this.
But
he's played very well.
Yeah.
Past 2 weeks, he's played very, very well. Give the guy credit for as well. And it's not a matchup that scares you. Eagles, 3rd most touchdown passes allowed this season. Dak, by the way, he seems to have the Eagles number. He's had over 20 fantasy points each of the last 3 games against the Eagles dating back to 2021. Teams that face the Eagles average almost 40 pass attempts. I mean, Sam Howell, future Hall of Famer Sam Howell, was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy last week playing these Eagles. I think Dak is a better quarterback than Sam Howell.
I agree.
Others receiving votes, Sam Howell, Derek Carr, and C.J. Stroud here, Barry. They all hang right around QB 10. Howell at 9, Carr at 10, Stroud at 11.
Since week 4, Sam Howell is the 4th best quarterback in fantasy football. Like, they're just not running the ball. He's throwing it a ton. Over the past 4 weeks, New England ranks 32nd in pressure rate. So the one bugaboo, if you will, you heard me, bugaboo, to Sam Howell's game is all the sacks that he takes. The Patriots can't get after the pass rusher. So he should have a clean pocket for him. Didn't take a lot of sacks last week as well. I'm at QB 9. Derek Carr gets Chicago this week. Bears have allowed the 2nd most touchdown passes this season. They've allowed the 3rd most passing yards per game. Think about Derek Carr. Josh McDaniels, who fired him, got rid of him in Las Vegas, gets fired this week after being embarrassed on Monday Night Football, and now he gets to face the Bears. It's a pretty good week for Derek Carr, all things considered.
If Sam Howell's the 4th quarterback, since then, we may need to change the scoring in fantasy. We may need to change the scoring in how you keep points.
And we talked about this. We don't think the Texans can run, but C.J. Stroud can certainly throw. Past 4 weeks, Buccaneers allow 21.8 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks here. Let's go to the hate list really quickly.
2 make the hate list. Geno Smith and Daniel Jones. For Geno, I mean, he's had 5 straight games below 15 fantasy points, Jay. He is not the guy in fantasy that he was last year where he hung around being QB5.
He just hasn't been the guy he was since the first 5 weeks of last season where he was playing like an MVP candidate. Since then, he's looked more like kind of Geno Smith and the idea of what he was before last season. Baltimore might have the best defense in the NFL as well.
They're allowing the fewest fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, under 12 fantasy points per game. This game is in Baltimore, so they're having to travel there as well. He's QB 17 for me this week.
And the last one, Daniel Jones. He'll be running away from Max Crosby. Listen, not that the Raiders defense scares you, but Jones has not been effective this year. Their line's getting healthier, but Crosby's a guy that wrecks the game.
You remember that second half against Arizona in week 2 where they made that furious comeback and Daniel Jones looked great? Well, 56% of Daniel Jones's total fantasy points this year came in that one half. Otherwise, crazy. It's been brutal. 0 touchdown passes in 4 out of 5 starts so far this season. 5 of the 8 quarterbacks to face the Raiders have scored below 16 fantasy points. And while Jay was talking, literally just got an alert on my phone. Brian Daboll, it's official that Darren Waller is out for this week. So Jones has a tough matchup. He hasn't played well, and now his best offensive pass-catching weapon isn't going to be there. He's outside my top 20 this week, guys.
We're going to break one more time. When we're back, it's last call. We got our Thursday Night Football preview for Steelers-Titans coming right up. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. It is time for last call, and we are looking at our Thursday Night Football most bet player props, courtesy of our friends at DraftKings. A Nick Folk field goal made under 1.5 is the number 1 bet on the board from the public right now, followed by DeAndre Hopkins receiving yards over 52.5. Will Levis passing touchdowns over 1.5. That's at plus 195. Will Levis passing yards over 202.5, and Najee Harris, Jay, rushing yards over 45.5. The public is on your side, Jay.
Yeah, I like that. But I'm not going with Najee today. I'm going with someone else, someone better. Alex Highsmith. Little niche, not mainstream, not a Talladega Nights type of operator, clearly.
No.
Alex Highsmith over 0.25 sacks is plus 100. He is top 20 in the NFL in pressures per game. He goes up against a weak offensive line that the Titans have, and rookie quarterback Will Levis, who I think on a short week will be amenable to taking some sacks.
Yeah, I'm taking the under. I'm just taking the pure under here, which is currently at 37. I know that's a low number, but still. The under in terms of nighttime games overall this year is 19-7. Pittsburgh is 6-1 on the under over the last 7 games, and they've been under in 5 straight. Tennessee is actually 5-2 with the under in terms of their games. And so you think about this, the Steelers, who are the number 2 scoring defense over the last 4 weeks, getting Cam Hayward back. And here comes Will Levis, a rookie quarterback, on the road in a primetime game on a short week. I feel like this is just an ugly Thursday night game. Give me the under on 37 points tonight.
A theme of your bets, guys, is Will Levis running for his life. I believe you. Will Levis over 10.5 rushing yards for me.
I like this one.
He had 7 carries last week. Will Levis will run. He was willing to run in college. He's a big-bodied guy. He can take the hits. He's going to be running away from the Steelers' defensive line a lot. He really just needs one real breakaway scramble to get this number. I think this number for Levis going forward will be closer to the 20s or high teens. 10.5 is pretty low.
I like that. Listen, you guys lauged at me for the Jimmy Garoppolo 3.5 rushing yards over. That cashed, and it cashed early.
Sometimes you got to run for your life.
Sometimes you got to run. Sometimes you got to run for your life. It is worth noting here, by the way, Pittsburgh has allowed 15 rushing yards to 4 different quarterbacks already, 15 or more. Now, one of those was Lamar, one of those was Watson, not exactly Will Levis. But the fact of the matter is right, we expect pressure to come after Levis, especially with Hayward back. And so, all he needs is one scramble to get you there.
Yep. I think a good angle with the under as well is that I don't think either of these two teams are going to be dropping back to pass a ton. I think as much as they can, they will want to run the ball. Even the Titans' run defense isn't what it was last year. You can run the ball on the Titans to a degree that you couldn't previously. And then I don't think that on a short week that it's going to be Will Levis throwing the ball 45 times. I think it's going to be Derrick Henry as much as possible. And Derrick Henry games are generally good for the under because the clock keeps on ticking.
And how do you feel about your boy Najee Harris? I just want you to let you know his total yards is 58.5. He's gone under that number in 2 of the last 4 and 4 of 7 games so far this year. Tennessee has allowed a running back to go over that number only 3 times this year.
Yeah, I don't love him. Certainly don't love him. And he is my boy, but he's my second boy. Michael Thomas is my number 1 boy. Najee Harris is the second option if Michael's not around.
And then one of your kids is third?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, number 3. Ella's 3. But behind Najee and Michael Thomas.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, not a great game for Najee Harris than I would have thought.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us.
That is it for us. Love Hate is available for free on Rotoworld.com and NBCSports.com. Congratulations, Dr. Ahmet. Appreciate you. It's closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Free prescriptions for everyone. Jay, Connor, and Matthew. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.